Now is the boss.
Okay, sir, we're live. You can start.
Hi, good evening, everyone. We go on to the next lot of webinars from Wbas. After the last one on knees, we're going to do one on hips. It's mainly on case discussions, and along with it, we're going to have two informal talks. One by Tirthankar on how to keep fit, and one by Vikas how to keep our money safe during these times. So, welcome everyone. Hope we all have a good time. And I hand the proceedings over to Shomitra. Dr. Mishra is going to be conducting this whole session on hip arthroplasty. Shomitra, over to you.
Thank you, Rajiv. Good evening, everybody. Now, as Rajiv mentioned, we're having a mixture of two academic presentations and two, I would not say non-academic, but it's rather not a hip case, but very important for us. Now, we have four presenters, Dr. Sunit Hajra, Dr. B.D. Chatterjee, Dr. Tirthankar Bhattacharya, and Dr. Vikash Kapoor. I will start with one hip case, arthroplasty and dysplastic hip made easy by Dr. Sunit Hajra. Now, subsequent presentation is dual mobility cup by Dr. B.D. Chatterjee, but I think he is busy with his finances. So, rather Tirthankar and Vikas will do their presentation and BD will come at the end to make his presentation. So, we'll start with Sunit. You go ahead, share your screen and make your presentation. You are the controller, so you will involve the panels. Okay. Panel are Dr. Chandan Pathak. As the panelists are all joined.
No, I think my panels are not completed. So,
anybody there? Shutanu is there.
Yes,
I am in.
Saurabh and Chandan Pathak sir is not there.
Chandan is there.
Oh,
Chandan is, I can see. Yeah. Start it off.
So Chandanda is there. So yeah, so two panelists are there already. So we can start with Sunit's case.
So all my question goes to panelist only, no?
Yes, yes. If anybody wants to ask questions, they can write on the chat box, and I'll forward it to you. I or me or Rajiv will forward it to you.
Okay. So thank you, West Bengal Arthroplasty Society, for giving me the opportunity. I think this is a simple case, so we'll probably discuss it, how to proceed about it, and discuss with the various options which we had probably for this case. I think this is the case. I think 33-year-old female. She was having bilateral hip pain for last around 12 years, and the etiology was not very clear from the patient's point of view. Patient had some sort of infection on her left hip, which was treated by the medications only but on the right side, patient had some sort of trauma, and then patient gradually developed pain on both sides. More presently, the pain is more on the right side than on the left side, and patient had sort of waddling gait. So, I would like to proceed with this, Sutanuda. So, how would you like to proceed from this point?
So, let us go as we go in our MBBS and MS case. First of all is the what is the presentation? So you said pain more on the right side. Okay. So what about the left side? Was it painless?
No, it is painful, but less painful. Patient was limping on both the sides, having difficulty on both the sides. Very limited.
So the chief complaints are pain and limp. So she wants relief from both of them.
Yes.
That is what is our target, right? So now coming to we have a provisional diagnosis. Before we go to the investigations, we already have the x-rays. If any further investigation needed, other panelists and all other faculties would join in.
No. So this is case. How will you proceed from here?
Yeah. That is what I am proceeding like a medical student. Okay. So according to me, it is a CDH, congenital dysplastic hip. Whatever be the reason, definitely it is a dysplastic hip. There is a history of left-sided infection and all that, but then why was the right side affected? So we can see from here that the right side is also affected. So it is a bilateral affected hip. Bilateral affected hip. So if it is a bilateral affected hip, both of the acetabulum and the femoral head is plastic. So now we go to the next step is what is the further investigations for from my part. There's some disturbance behind. If somebody can mute their audio and video, audio in fact. So from my part, I definitely would like to go for a lateral view, definitely, and a CT scan to get a 3D view.
On a stiff hips, do you really, I mean, want to do a lateral view, particularly on the right side?
Absolutely. Both sides, a lateral view and a CT scan.
Okay.
I definitely would go for it. It's not a very costly investigation to get a lateral view of both hips. And if possible,
you will tend to get a good lateral view, I mean, to get proper
may not, it might be an oblique view. It might be an oblique view from seeing the deformities and obviously the long-standing problems and all that. It might be an oblique view.
Okay, let's proceed.
And also a CT scan. Now, what is the reason of CT scan? The reason of CT scan on my part is that we need to find out what is the acetabular anatomy. What is the acetabular anatomy?
Okay.
A CT scan, I would prefer. If needed, I would also get a complimentary or whatever CT scan done to see what is the acetabular anatomy and get into the different dimensions of dimension and all that. Fine. Do we have a CT scan?
DG. Let's have the opinion of our panelists. Chandan Patak.
Suvit, yes, from the X-ray, this is absolutely clean cut that this is we are dealing with bilateral dysplastic hip with definite degenerative changes. That is the cause of pain. And there's this is the only reason the patient is. There is a background noise. It's very difficult. So
Arnab, can you mute everybody other than the panelists? I think panelists can unmute themselves. You mute everybody first. Arnab? Yes.
So this is absolutely clear for me.
Anyway, we can proceed.
So this is absolutely clear that we are dealing with a bilateral dysplastic hip. Yes, with degenerative changes. And now, because the patient is unable to walk almost, so there is hardly any doubt that there is no option left.
Yeah. So how will you investigate further?
For me, CT scan is absolutely more than enough.
Yeah.
Because lateral.
Okay.
For me,
can I come in?
Yeah, just Dr. Saurabh is there. I think he's not there probably. Okay. Yes, Utanoda, please.
Yeah. So absolutely, as Chandan Patak sir said, that CT scan. What I had also said that CT scan is a must to get a three-dimensional view of what is the acetabular, mainly the acetabular anatomy, maybe the femoral also, the proximal part and the middle. And also, I would also like to say that because it's a long-standing case, I do need to get what is the status of the lumbosacral spine.
Yeah.
As you can see from the X-ray, that it is almost an inlet view.
Yes.
So these cases have some issues post-op. One is that, well, the surgery will come to that later. You should have done good surgery. Must have done a good surgery. But the LS spine is important regarding the. LS spine is important regarding
LS spine because the patient was quite young, 33-year-old, and LS spine was okay.
No. X-ray LS spine in sitting position. LS spine in sitting position. Okay. LS spine in standing position. The reason is we need to know what is the rigidity of the LS spine, the flexibility of the LS spine,
Okay.
because that
Got
would
your point. Got
lead
your
to
point.
the version issues. That would lead to the version issues.
Got your point. I think I have not put any electronic experience, but the patient was clinically stable. I mean, there was a normal lumbar lordosis was there. Patient was quite stable lumbar spine was there. So, how would you interpret this CT scan?
Kalyan, please mute yourself. Kalyan Guho, please mute yourself.
So definitely, if I am given the A, that the dysplasia and the acetabulum is more on the left side.
Yes.
This is a CT scan, yeah. So left side, this side,
This is right
left
side
side,
and this is left side.
left side, left side.
Hmm.
Left side is more shallow. I am not talking about the high riding acetabulum that is there on both sides. High riding acetabulum was on bilateral, but the left side is more dysplastic.
Okay.
Definitely.
So,
So what we need to see is what the patient has come for. Obviously, whatever the patient has come for, we need to address both sides.
okay, are you happy with
We
this
need
CT scan cut only, or you need anything else?
no. If you can provide more cuts, you can. If you can provide the coronal cuts, the other cuts, it would be more informative because we need to take the measurements.
You need the sagittal, coronal cuts and axial cuts
Yeah,
only.
yeah, axial cuts, all of them. Yeah.
Chandan
Obviously, it is there. But once you've got a CT scan, all of them will be present. You might have presented only this here, but definitely you have all of them in your hand.
I'm just to ask Chandan Parak sir, what is the importance of 3D CT scan here?
3D CT scan in this case, I don't find, because you can get those walls. You can get those walls in front of you. You can have a plasticine model out of it, and particularly on left side, this is more dysplastic compared to the right. So for the X-ray, I mean CT report is showing. So you need to know how much wall deficiency is there. That is the most important part that you have to look for. I think that is the only reason for which we are going for the CT scan. That is the only reason.
Yeah.
But how much wall deficiency?
I don't know. I personally find the CT scan, if you digitally subtract your femoral give you an excellent picture of your acetabulum, particularly the exact 3D view that will really help you in planning your acetabular reconstruction. And this just MRI was also done to rule out just infection. Probably MRI was not required for that patient. So this is the CT scan. Sutanuda, your opinion?
Yeah, it almost, my opinion is it almost looks like more like an X-ray. So as Chandan sir has said that a 2D CT scan in 3-dimensional views, all the 3 views, the axial, sagittal, coronal, every cut, if we evaluate, it is actually more than enough. But obviously they give us 3D CT scan plate also with it. So
it is more important than 3D.
Yeah, 2D is more important than 3D. That is what I always say. 3D is good, like anatomically it looks like a model, but
this is your right side, the anterior wall, the posterior wall, the cavity, and this is your right side. So
left side.
Shallow.
Hello.
This is the right side. This is the left side.
This is your left side.
Yeah. And so what I had told earlier after seeing the X-ray, that definitely the left side looks a little more difficult than the right side.
No. The question here is this CT is more helpful than the reconstructed CT is more helpful than all the 2D cuts and reconstruction in your mind?
No, I repeat again. 2D CTs are more informative. Okay. 2D CTs are more informative. 3D CTs, there's a lot of subtraction that has to be done by the radiographer, not the radiologist. The radiographer does all these cuts and all that. Sometimes they delete many things.
Can I say one thing?
Yes, sir.
Saurabh has joined, so you can ask a question to Saurabh.
Since one side is basically it's on type 3 and one side is type 2. Okay. So in a type 2 and a type 3, both sides you need to have a different.
So we are talking about Crow classification, is it? Crow
Yeah,
classification.
it's a Crow classification. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. But type 2 is basically it's a problem is more in the acetabulum. And the type 3 and type 4 is most probably it's more in a acetabulum problem is always there, and if you have to the upriding of the femoral A and the dislocations. So both sides will be A. So type 2, the one with the type 2 is only have to concentrate on the acetabulum one, how you have to put the cup in a proper position. Okay. And that, but a type 3, we need to have something to do with the bringing down the femoral side.
We will discuss that in a little more details. So of that. So Sutanuda, so which side first? Sutanuda.
Obviously, the painful side first. But for that, if I am permitted, there are a couple of important questions from the chat box. One is to determine the version from a CT scan, and the second thing is whether 3D printing also helps in better assessment. So I asked this question to the panelists and obviously to Shuneet, that the first thing is how to decide the version from a CT scan, 3D CT, 2D CT, combined 3D and 2D CT. Definitely, we have to find out the version. Whatever be the version, we have to get back to the native version as much as possible. That is what I would like to ask the put up the question. I'll just put up the question.
Can you
And
take 3D printing, measure the version quickly?
That if you from the 2D CT,
yes,
that is very easy because we have to get the femoral condyles, that view, and
I think probably the question is about
we need a long CT. Then we need to get a CT of the knee also.
Also, obviously.
No, version is femoral version or acetabular version. Any specified? The question is
no, they have not specified. They said version
I think
of the acetabulum.
acetabulum
Acetabulum.
Acetabulum version.
Okay. How will you measure the acetabular version in axial cut? Chandan Parak sir?
ঠিক আছে, আপনার এক্সরে গুলো দেখেছি, মানে মোস্টলি অলরাইট। আপনার কিছু প্রবলেম আছে কি?
So I would like to mute.
Yeah.
Sir.
আবার ঠিক আছে, মানে আপনার কোনো প্রবলেম আছে কিনা, আপনার কোনো ব্যথা আছে কিনা? হ্যাঁ।
So mute.
It is matching our questions here.
ঠিক আছে।
আমি মিউট করলে
আপনি আরো 2 সপ্তাহ বাদে আই ক্যান অ্যালাউ ইউ টু অনিন্দকে বলবে একটু ওয়াকার দিয়ে হাঁটি। ঠিক আছে, মানে আফটার 2 উইকস। ওকে, আফটার 2 উইকস।
অর্ণব,
হ্যাঁ হ্যাঁ বাবা, আপনি করুন, এক্সারসাইজ গুলো করুন, আর 2 উইকস পরে হাঁটবেন। আর যদি কোনো ব্যথা হয়, হাঁটার পর যদি ব্যথা বাড়ে, তাহলে ইউ হ্যাভ টু স্টপ ইট এন্ড ডু আ রিপিট এক্স-রে।
সৌরভ মিউট করো প্লিজ, সৌরভ মিউট করো।
মোস্ট প্রবাবলি ইট ইজ,
আমরা থেমে আছি, সৌরভ প্লিজ মিউট করো।
স্যার
শুনি এগিয়ে যা।
ঠিক আছে, because I mean a conference.
Sir, বলুন। Sardar sir wanted to say something, I think.
Actually, I wanted to come in to say that question about the CT scan. The CT scan really gives you a height of the anterior acetabulum, the thickness of it, the posterior acetabulum, the thickness of it, and also the depth of the acetabulum. These are the 3 things which are required for placing your cup. And this, the CT scan or the 3D CT will be a good idea. But a transverse section of the CT, as was shown in the first shot, would give you an idea of the anterior and posterior thickness. And that is important because that will determine the direction in which you will read. Fundamentally, also, the second portion is that the size of the acetabulum, because you'll have to think about whether you want to do a bantam cup, because the bantam cup sort of thing is not so applicable nowadays. So you would want to put in a decent size acetabular cup, and that would entirely depend on your reaming and the thickness of your anterior and posterior acetabular thickness and the depth.
Okay, so let's proceed. I think we are
we're losing time.
Yeah. So, I mean, all agree, yeah, Chandan Pathak sir and Saurabh, that we will do the left side first, painful side first.
Just a
Yes,
small
yes,
brief thing. What Rajiv that point, is there any role of 3D printing? We have talked about 3D
Yeah,
CT
there
scan.
is. I mean, if you finding it difficult to, gauge, 3D printing will give you a much better idea about the anatomy. So let's proceed with the left side first, right side first, which we already discussed. That and now is how to deal with the acetabular problem. So, Sudananda, what are the problems you expect in the acetabular side, and how you wanted to tackle that? And what are your
That's
armamentarium you want to take at
Should
the time of
basically the acetabulum problem is that you've got a deficient superior wall. Okay, and the next is a very shallow. Basically it's a superior acetabular wall. If you want to put down it, you need to some coverage in the superior acetabulum. Whether you can do it with a bone graft with femoral head and put in that and put in a cup, or you can use a tantalum prefabricated
augment?
augment.
And what other options? I mean,
As
have
the,
you considered
the,
about the eye
the
printer?
main thing is that to bring down the femoral head down, because this guy is going on in that position when everything soft tissue is contracted. So you need to bring down it. You put a
How do you
acetabulum,
find
but
that acetabulum? This is probably the low dislocation where you have an oblong sort of acetabulum.
Yeah,
How do you
can I
find that?
come in? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So as Saurabh said that definitely is the most important thing is the superior part and the anterior and posterior wall. So whenever we do an acetabulum, whether it's a primary acetabulum, difficult primary, revision, whatever, we need to get a proper anterior posterior fit. So as Indrajit sir has said that we need to know the thickness of the anterior wall and the posterior wall. Definitely from the X-ray, it looks that the right side is better compared to the left side. Left side is almost flat. So the right side, if we are going first, we need to do a acetabulum in which there is a good anteroposterior fit. If there is any superior defect, we can use a part of the head. Now coming to the left side, obviously that has
Left
been
side,
done
the
at a
right
later
side
stage.
acetabulum we are discussing.
Okay, right side,
Yes,
fine,
sir.
fine.
Acha, may I comment?
Yes.
See, if you look at the X-ray, the main problem in these cases are you have a big inferior osteophyte.
Yes.
So that is the most important target. Initially, you have to target that inferior osteophyte. Unless you target that, if you go to find out the true acetabulum, you are definitely going to land up in a high hip center.
Yes.
So targeting the inferior osteophyte, that is the first step in rimming or preparation of acetabulum.
Yeah.
If
So I
you
think
miss,
two of the most important aspect about this is discussed. I think like the sizing of the acetabulum is actually depends on the anteroposterior diameter rather than the superior inferior. And you don't want to fit the superior inferior diameter. You need to fit the cap into the anteroposterior diameter, and the medial side you need to medialize and rim the inferior osteoid and find the lowermost point. Sir, do you use SIAM to check the correct position of the acetabulum? Chandan Pathak, sir?
mostly no.
No. And how do you then decide that you have reached the lowermost point?
See,
what I want to say that is because you have to do the second side also. I think the
So,
first side.
just a second. I mean, Chandan, let Chandan Pathak sir finish. How do you decide that you have reached the lowermost point?
Lowermost point, I think most of the cases, you find there is a big chunk of inferior osteophyte covering the tal. So with a keen osteotome, if you just start chiseling out, and after a while you will find the tal. Once you get back to the tal, that is your guideline that you are almost in. Now, first do that is the most important aspect, because if you miss that, you are gone.
Yes.
You are bound to land up in a superior and hip center, and in eventually you are going to fail.
Okay.
So most important is inferior.
Actually, I'm just saying it.
Yeah.
But it's very unlikely that on the left side, you can bring down the hip center in a normal
Right side
position.
to bottom.
Okay, right side, right side.
So, but actually, you have to do the both side. Okay. So if
No,
the
no, left side we will discuss first.
no,
finish the right side.
but you have to think of the second operation also.
Second operation,
First-
second ভাববো না।
না
এখন
না
আমরা
না
first-
মানে ব্যাপারটা হচ্ছে যে তোমাকে তার হিপ সেন্টার তুমি প্রপার নামাতে পারলে
Okay, okay.
you have to also decide that the left side also তুমি কি ওই লেভেলে কি হিপ সেন্টারকে নামাতে পারবে
Okay.
হ্যাঁ কেন পারবি না?
So on the left side, you cannot bring the acetabulum to the native part. So you have to just
মানে বোথ সাইড হচ্ছে তো ইভলিন করতে হবে কিছু তো স্যাক্রিফাইস করতেই হবে তাই না
কেন
how do you-
ইজিলি নামিয়ে দিবি।
Okay, then how do you plan for the limb length discrepancy?
আগে যেটা ভালো আছে সেটা করতে চাবো আই উইল বি নট যে আমি অ্যাকচুয়াল হিপ সেন্টার আনতে পারবো কতটা নামানো দরকার সেটা করতে হবে লেফট সাইডে মোস্ট প্রবাবলি ইউ হ্যাভ টু গিভ এটা ক্রো 3 টাইপের হয়ে গেছে সো বেসিক্যালি তোমাকে একটা ফিমোরাল ডাউন করতে হবে ট্রাকশন কিংবা যা কিছু দিয়ে তারপরে মেবি ফিমোরাল শর্টনিং এনিথিং ইটস ক্রো 3 and ক্রো 4
Anything else to add?
হ্যাঁ
Sutanu,
No, I agree with both of them. I agree with both of them. First and most important thing is that we are approaching the right side first, but as Saurabh has said, that we have to also think about the left side because we only have to do the left side again. You only have to do it. So
Suppose panelist, you have 5 more minutes.
No, seeing the X-ray, you can see that the level of the lower level of the acetabulum is same in both sides. So we need to do the right side according to the TAL, and the left side if also we have to do accordingly. And if needed, we'll have to augment the superior part.
Since we have only 5 minutes, let me summarize. On the acetabular side,
Yeah.
probably you will medialize first. Medial ossified, you need to remove. You need to lower down the acetabulum as far as practical. That depends upon your expertise, and you need to consider the other side also. Whether how much
true.
you can
Absolutely.
lower down. But my personal view is I tend to normalize the acetabulum as far as practical, and I think we should be considering both the sides to normalize the acetabulum in as low as possible. And of course, the acetabular sizing is dependent on the anteroposterior diameter, and the superior part is usually should be either used.
If it is deficient, you augment it. Whatever you want. Whatever you want.
Okay.
Bone graft. Yeah, bone graft.
So that I will just show you the what exactly I did. See, this is the the acetabulum. This is the true acetabulum. If I can make you, this is the femoral side retracted anteriorly. This is the false acetabulum. This is the margin of that acetabulum. This is enlarged view. This is the defect, and this is the true acetabulum. And this is the cutting. This is how I prepare the bone graft. And after cutting the head,
Femoral head,
femoral head, and taking out all the cartilage and hard subchondral tissue to some extent, and then do the multiple drilling on that. Then I put that graft on the defect and put cancellous screws, and then this is how it looks like after putting the cup, and this is your hip center. So I think Saurabh, you agree that this is bring down to the normal level.
Yes, that has been bring down to normal level, but
No. Now this patient goes to you for the left side. So what is your where do you want to put the acetabulum?
So if I get this patient, I'll be much more happier if I put the cup in a little bit a higher hip center, because I understand that the next one I cannot bring down to this level.
Okay.
Even everything done.
Okay. Chandan Padak, sir.
I'll definitely go straight, as I told you before, that I'll target the true acetabulum, definitely augment the superior roof part that is deficient there, and if I cannot bring down the trochanter, definitely subtrochosteotomy to bring it down. There's no doubt about it.
Just a point here, sir. When you do the subtrochanteric osteotomy, and how do you decide?
First, fix do your acetabulum properly. That part is first. Then ream the femur in the same sitting.
So, I mean, it is just a para-operative decision, subtrochanteric
Yes,
osteotomy,
absolutely para-operative decision.
not
Depending-
pre-operative.
No, pre-operative, we have to be prepared. And for me, the only thing is that if you join the inferior tear drop, see the medial margin of tear drop, and if how I assume if you calculate the pelvic height and
Yes.
this tear drop to the inferior aspect of the lesser trochanter. So from that length, you can have an idea that this is difficult to bring it down, and always think that
Yeah, I
do
mean,
not-
I also, when Dr. Rajput sir, last time I discussed with him, he said a nice thing. If the lesser trochanter lies above the your, teardrop, then probably you
Yes.
will require. That's a rough guideline. And I read the literature
That is a
also
nice
says that in low dislocations or type 1 or type 2, you don't need the subtrochanteric osteotomy. In
Yes.
type 3 and type 4, probably you require subtrochanteric osteotomy. So,
same for me.
Sutananda, on the left side, your acetabulum goes as low as possible, or you want to put a higher acetabulum?
No, definitely I like to keep it as low as possible, but I would like to comment one thing on the right side. See the level of the GT and the level of the center of the head. Definitely it is, obviously this is a very difficult case. You can't expect it to be an ideal case, but whenever there is this difference of level of GT and level of the center of the head, then obviously there is a chance that the GT is very near and going to abut.
Yeah.
So if possible, we have to have a lower threshold of doing a subtrochanteric osteotomy. I'm not saying anything is right or wrong.
Yeah.
But whatever you have done according to your situation might have been right.
Yeah,
But what I
was
think
finding
is
it
that the
difficult
GT
to,
should be at a lower level.
Yeah.
Sunit, you have
So
one more
now
minute
coming
to
to the left
summarize.
side,
Okay.
left side, we have to get it at the lower level as similar to the right side.
Okay, so
By
that
whatever
please
way, as
summarize,
Chandan
Sunit.
sir has said, if it is not able to bring it down, osteotomize the femur. If you are
So I
not
think,
able to bring down the femur,
yeah,
osteotomize.
this is on the other side, right side. I actually did the subtrochanteric osteotomy. This is, you can see after reduction. So what I find is probably you can lower down the femur as much as possible if you release your anterior capsule and posterior capsule. I actually did the subtrochanteric osteotomy and take out the entire femoral acetabulum, the anterior capsule, posterior, except the gluteus. Everything was denuded. So I was able to reduce it very nicely. I put the hip center in the normal anatomical site, and acetabulum I used did not use any graft because the acetabulum was quite thick there. So I used a small cup, 47 cup, and did the subtrochanteric osteotomy there. And as you can see, the trochanter I was able to bring down the to quite a significant level, and the sciatic was also quite fine on both the sides. So just this is, I think, what difficult situations where subtrochanteric osteotomy I would keep it for higher dislocations. Acetabulum I would like to do the, I mean, I already discussed the anteroposterior diameter cup, and if you don't have any good acetabulum, the medial wall is thick, then try to use as a small cup as possible. And that's it. I think probably in these difficult sort of situations, I think you sometimes tend to compromise somewhere, but at the end, I think if you can have a reasonable looking X-ray, it should be fine. I think. What is the opinion of the other panelists about this?
Can I come in, Sunit? Can I come in? It's
Yeah,
a very good done surgery, but now retrospectively, do you think that on the right side also you could have easily done a subtrochanteric osteotomy, because you have done on the left side? So what was your hesitation on doing on the right side? Because you see the level of the GT and compared to the center of head in the left side is much more normalized rather than the right side.
this,
The
Sutanu,
plus
we
side.
can discuss about
Yes.
these for hours. Sorry for being a spoilsport, but I think we'll have to take
Okay,
a few
then.
questions from the chat box. Now there is a question about additional fixation of the osteotomy. Is it necessary or not? Quick answer from Sunit.
sir. Yes, I think probably this is a 6 weeks X-ray patient. Actually, I thought after putting that reamer that it was rotationally and stable in the osteotomy. That's why I did not put any.
Okay, I got your point. What about the limb length? Is the limb what about the limb length?
That's what I was saying.
Yeah.
Sunit, please answer limb length.
Yeah. So I think I did not bother about the limb length discrepancy. I told the patient that this is bilateral thing. Probably I will try to bring the leaflet as close as possible, but not I mean, I absolutely guarantee you that the leaflet will be equal. It's very difficult. So I tried.
Great. Okay. Last question. How much bone to be exercised in subtrochanteric osteotomy? Question from Dr. Gahir.
Yeah. So I think this is the slide that explains exactly why. This is after reduction of the proximal fragment, and this was the overlap. So the amount of overlap, I just kept a 1 to 1.5 centimeter more on the shaft side, so that it can have a good soft tissue balancing. I mean tension. So the amount.
So
of
one last question from me,
1.5
Sunit. One last question from you. Why choosing this particular stem? Why not the for CDH we are used to using with a SROM kind of modular stem that gives you a lot of flexibility in choosing your version, as well as it's good for fixing your subtract osteotomy as well. So why did you choose this particular type of stem?
I think this is question by whom, sir?
So from me.
Oh, okay. Sir, just 1 minute to the other extra dite paren sir, yes from niye. So
Okay.
Yeah. So sir, what is the usually the longest stem available with 6 millimeter diameter in SROM?
I think minimum is 6 millimeter diameter. Yes.
No,
That's
yeah,
the thinnest.
length.
Millimeter diameter, 6 or 7 millimeter diameter. What is the
Is the
longest
minimum?
length
Is
of
the minimum? Yeah, that's the minimum.
Yeah, that is
Length,
about 18 centimeter, 180.
Length is probably 180. I forgot at the moment. It's
It
probably
does not
180.
have more than 180, and
Okay.
this stem itself is 21 centimeter.
Okay.
So this stem is longer than your the SROM 6 or 7 millimeter diameter, and this DDH patient, young patient, the shaft is really thin. I don't want to remit to the 10 or 11. Probably, but no bone will be left. And I actually thought about keeping SROM there. Then when I inquired with them, Deputy guy, and they said these are the armamentary available. Then I checked into the PDF of that SROM available, and it says that only 18 millimeter length is available, which is probably equal or little smaller than this stem.
Okay. Got your point. Got
Yeah.
your point. Excellent case, Sunit. Very
Okay,
nice.
good
And
job,
we can,
Sunit. Good job,
yeah,
Sunit.
I think we can discuss with it for hours, but we have limited time, so we need to conclude this case. Thank you, Sunit and the panelists. Now, our next talk is by Dr. Tirthankar. Tirthankar, please share your screen.
কি রে এত তাড়াতাড়ি?
হ্যাঁ, কেন? কি আপত্তি তো?
আপত্তি
আমরা একটা এক্সারসাইজ করব, তারপর আবার পরের কেসে যাব। এক্সারসাইজ পয়সা করি, তারপর আবার পরের কেস।
আচ্ছা ঠিক আছে।
Exercise begin.
এই হোস্ট ডিসেবল পার্টিসিপেন্ট স্ক্রিন শেয়ারিং কিছু
কোথায় কে করেছে?
হোস্ট করেছে
অর্ণব।
And this is a part of exercise, sir.
অর্ণব, where are you?
এই শুনি তোর পিছনে এই হাওড়া ব্রিজটা কি করে করছিস বলতো?
ওটা জুমে গিয়ে সেট করতে হবে বাবু।
ও আচ্ছা, জুমে গিয়ে সেট করতে হয়।
হ্যাঁ,
ওটা হাওড়া ব্রিজ না, ওটা সান ফ্রান্সিসকো।
হ্যাঁ, ওটা হাওড়া ব্রিজ নয়, হাওড়া ব্রিজ নয়। সরি তীর্থঙ্কর। Where is অর্ণব? রাজীব, can you do that?
মাথার পেছনে আছে।
Arnav is there, I think. Arnavকে ফোন করব?
হ্যাঁ, একটু ফোন কর না।
এই সময় আমি একটা প্রশ্ন করি, that will delight রাজীব।
স্যার,
একটা ফিমোরাল স্টেমটা সিমেন্টেড করলে কেমন হয়? তাহলে ভার্সনে
বাস।
হ্যাঁ, এক্সেলেন্ট। এটা তো দেখিয়েছিল আমাদের এতে আইএস কনে।
হ্যাঁ,
এ দেখালো না আপনার আরে অস্ট্রেলিয়ান রস ক্রফোর্ড, ইয়েস।
আমি তো জিজ্ঞেস করেছিলাম, কেউ জিজ্ঞেস করলো না। রস ক্রফোর্ড, Exeter have a huge series on these.
Doing a
I am
cemented
just asking all the seniors, Soumitra da, Rajiv da, sir, if you use a cemented, definitely do you have a little way, right? Like adjusting the length.
You can play around with the version beautifully, and more importantly, what you do is you take the bit of graft. What they have done is taken the bit of the graft and wrapped it around the femur at the osteotomy site. And so it's like you don't have osteotomy, taken the graft, bivalved it, put it down the femur and tied it around. So that has given them excellent stability. They have nearly 5-year results, very good incorporation. Fracture unites very well with the cement.
তীর্থঙ্কর দেখ এবার।
চলো
দেখছি। শুরু করবো?
Yes, you have 15 minutes.
Hello.
ওকে, সো এক্সারসাইজ শোনা যাচ্ছে তো?
হ্যাঁ,
So exercise in the time of physical distancing, it's almost sounds like love in the time of cholera. So let's go about it. How to go about it? Exercise is like world peace. Everybody wants the benefit, but nobody wants to work towards it. Worse, most of the time we work against it. Now, before going to any exercise, let me show you a very important exercise for all ages. And this is a magic exercise which will make everybody healthy and fit in no time at all. Now, this is the exercise. Like all magic, this has to be done at a proper time. When is the time? Whenever you are seeing this type of food, do that exercise. So that is number one. You have to do that exercise whenever you are seeing this type of food.
এক্সারসাইজ করার পরে খেয়ে নেবো?
Okay, aim is not,
Absolutely.
South India, that will mean a yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ekdom, yes, that means yes.
aim is not biceps and six packs. The aim is to be fit and healthy without losing focus on what we are. We are not bodybuilders. We are just doctors keeping check of our health. And unlike surgery, you can afford to be imperfect. This person has a paunch, doesn't have a biceps, has very thin legs, but he is fit and healthy. Okay, we are talking about this exercise in COVID time as if all of us were doing a very much exercise in the pre-COVID time. But remember our pre-COVID time, it was pretty much like surgery. WhatsApp about the surgery, OPD, rounds, more surgery, more WhatsApp, more OPD, more surgery, and like that. And when we were not doing that, we were doing either seminars or workshops or conferences. When we were not doing that, we were having some me time in which, of course, family comes first, then friends, then recreation, and then hobbies. Now, where was the time for exercise? Unless, of course, you made exercise your recreation or hobby. Now, that is a very difficult proposition. Now, like everything, we orthopedic surgeons love classification. So, there is also a classification of exercising orthopedic surgeons, an EO classification. Type 1, they doesn't exercise. One who doesn't exercise. Type A is since time immemorial, and type B since he or she became busy. Type 2, the occasional exercisers. Then subgroup A is out of home and subgroup B is inside home. And of course, there are type 3, again out of home and inside home. And with this, you should have a few rejoinders. They may have some metabolic disorders like blood pressure, diabetes, etc., some cardiopulmonary disorders, and of course, musculoskeletal disorders. So, before embarking on this journey, first forget your past. You might be a very renowned striker in your college, but you are very much like this now. Remember your injuries. Each one of you are carrying some sort of injuries which you have picked up in the journey of life. You should remember them before going for exercise. Talk to your doctor. Believe me or not, the thing you are seeing on your screen on the right side is an unknown beast. We are very afraid of that. That is called a stethoscope. Now talk to the people who knows how to use them. And of course, be silent on the social media. Don't brag or don't discuss your plans on the social media. Now, what are the choices? You can walk, must and alone. You can cycle with helmet and mask. Of course, you can do a no equipment exercises at home. Those of us who was using a treadmill for a almirah or a used the washed linen keeper can now start using it. We can also do some weight training using bottles and books. We don't have any dearth of books, we orthopedic surgeons. Or we can convert some daily activities to exercises. Now, how to convert daily activities to exercise? You can park away from your destination, wherever you are going, and walk a little bit. Start using stairs. You can make the round longer instead of shorter. Start with the, say, in the 5th floor patients, go to the 5th floor patients, then come back to the 2nd floor and then again go to the 3rd floor. You can do some wall push-ups and some chair squats. All of these are very easy and you can do. Now, what is an ideal workout for us? For us doctors, it should be 30 to 60 minutes. It should include some warm-ups in the beginning, a cardio after that, some strengthening exercise according to whatever you are comfortable, some stamina building exercise again, whatever you are comfortable, and at the end, stretching. Do not neglect it at any cost. So, the type 1, who are the first timers in this exercise, you can walk. First, increase the time, then increase the distance, then only go for speed. Stretch, but know your limits. Always go for half things, half sit-ups, half push-ups, half half squats, and increase by 5 at a time. Do not start by running, jogging or yoga. You have a lifetime to improve, so don't rush. So for the type 2, the occasionals, you have heard the adage that some exercise is better than no exercise. I'll be telling you another one. No exercise is better than irregular exercise. So be regular. Get an indoor mat. Get a YouTube program, whatever suits you, and get it going. Put some alarm and put some goals. We have goals for everything, so why not for exercise? For type 3 who are regulars, keep it up. Can mix and match. You don't have to be told anything. Take challenges. Take things like Tabata, HIIT. There are many things available in the internet, and inspire others to do exercise. What about mind? This is all about body. What about mind? I think we all should have a phoneless hour a day. Enough is enough. Read a book, not a e-book, a proper book. Write something, anything other than prescriptions and OT notes. And find yourself, that lost self which as busy practitioners you have forgotten. Now exercise is not only like world peace, it is also like sex. It is enjoyable at any age. It gives almost as much satisfaction. It boosts your ego, and it is even better because you don't need a partner. So happy exercising. Thank you.
Thank you, Tirtho, for finishing early. Now, any questions for Tirtho? Now, I liked one point from his speak that no exercise is better than irregular exercise. I'm going to follow that.
Ito,
বলো।
বলছি শোনো এক্সারসাইজ যেটা I think people actually cannot calculate যে কতটা করা উচিত. So like for the very beginners, I think they should start off with around 20 minutes and not take to straight away very treadmill or something like that. They should probably do walking first. And I've got a guy who does cardiology. So I had asked him once, what is the best exercise? Like when do you say that you've done enough? Like for us, not for people who are going to do marathons and all that, but for us, what is the best? So he said you need to, if you're like doing a treadmill slowly, let's say 5.5 or 6 at the speed. In that case, you need to, you will be able to see your pulse rate. So you need to cross 100 pulse rate for minimum 5, better 10 minutes. So that's a very good indication you have that you've done enough exercise. The second is people who are like walking, how do they know it? So you start sweating, you see. So after sweating, if you've again done 5 or 10 minutes, you know that you've done enough. So these two are very simple, very basic guidelines for all of us, to follow that.
Absolutely, Dada, absolutely. You should start. But what I want to stress is that we should start exercising. This is the time we should start, everyone.
Because you see, if you walk, but if you've not actually got your heart rate to a certain extent, all that walk is useless.
Absolutely.
So that is where people talk about brisk walking.
But if you go to
excellent, and the most important thing is that what you said about the exercise of the body and the mind. So we need to take an hour and a half for ourselves in a day. If we cannot take an hour and a half for ourselves every day, I mean, then the rest of the 22 and a half hours is not.
I think, Sutan, if you see his first exercise was the best one, where you nod your head to all that food. I'll tell you, that is probably the best exercise. Because if you really eat a lot, you will never feel like exercising. So limit your food. You will actually have the desire then to do exercises.
Absolutely.
Eat only when you're hungry. Is it right?
Yeah, I think demand fitting again is coming very big way. So that is a very big way nowadays. It's been spoken about again. Like a child, used to be fed when demand. We also need to follow that now. It's beginning to be the new way forward for diets now.
Hey, Rajiv, আমাদের brainstorming কবে জানো?
24 তারিখ 24
You should not eat that day.
এই ডায়লগ গুলো দেখবো সেদিন দেখি।
চলো next.
Okay, we'll move to the next speaker from health to finance. Vikas, you share your screen.
Okay, just a minute. I thought I was the last. So is the screen visible now?
Yes, it is.
Okay. So thank you, and of course welcome to this webinar. Our team, Rajiv and Shaumitro, wonderfully arranged. And the dissertation on me today is financial planning. And I think all of us have been through a lot of things, and our Orthopedic Association has been trying and making efforts to help out some of the people and some of the seniors, colleagues whom we have lost. And I would like to pray for them and their families at this point of time, because these are the times when the wolf is on us. And as we cry, we should remember the words there. So this doesn't seem to be moving. Okay. So there is a very good book by Paulo Coelho, Who Will Cry When You Die. It is a lot of philosophy, but it is also a lot of finance, which is mixed with philosophy. We should be careful. So the pandemic has taught us a lot of lessons. Now the lessons are, even when the world is sleeping, we would be in the war zone. So we should be prepared. Our work is our worship, but it is our nemesis also. It is also leading to the way we are going away from this world. We have several talents and proudly have followed it or flaunted it in this past year. Then why are we shying away from discussing money and planning? I don't understand. I think this is the first time we are on a forum of academics discussing planning and finances. We need to protect ourselves first, and as we protect others, before we protect others. We must remember these lessons from this pandemic forever and probably for centuries to come. We know it by heart, but we don't share it because it is supposed to be a taboo. Why do we need to be patronizing? I mean, I am sorry to use the word patronizing, but when something happens to our members, we start a fund or some collection. Why is it that we are not making our members self-sufficient? We need to have that awareness from the people who are doing PGT shape, who are going to become senior residents, who are going to earn their first salary. That is also a part of teaching which we need to inculcate, which a generation like ours has learned in a very hard way. Are we a society of or for charity? Are we society of academics or we are for charity? Are we abject failures in our careers, so that at the age of 55, 60, if somebody meets a mishap, has he not worked or created enough wealth or enough for feeding his family that we need to, instead of running a fellowship in his or her name, we are or running a charity for destitute children in their name, we have to help their families. Of course, whatever amount we raise for those families will never be enough to match anything which their family would need at some point of time. It may be just for the sake of their treatment cost, which anyway most of us are covered with. Are we the poorest of poor that we patronize our martyred people? No, we are not. I want to make sure that all of us, we must make sure all of us who join orthopedics or any medical career are financially independent by the time they are in their early 40s. Do we need to lean on friends when and as we are alive for our families? Then why should we lean on our friends and depend on their patronization after our deaths? Or are we just trying to please the social media and pay our lip services to this cause of doing something for our colleagues? No, we should have some kind of intent to teach and develop a financial brain or a background. And I know 5 or 10 out of 100 of us are extremely skilled in it, but there are still 90% of people who go haywire. We need to have some kind of structured thought on these things. So a doctor's life and goals and the results beget the doctor's life goals, and the results begetted from each life goal I'm going to discuss. So the first life goal is skill, and it begets satisfaction in the life of a doctor. The second life goal is recognition, but that begets an ego. Remember that. As we get recognized, we start thinking, oh, we have done this. Who is we? There is a contribution of hundreds of people behind us. Our teachers, our seniors, our juniors, our staff, they have built us. So why do we have this ego? Why do we carry it around? And that kills our financial thought process. It doesn't make us humble. Money begets pride. Once we get money into ourselves, we are very middle class. Most of us are very simple people. We come after a lot of hard work into the system, and it begets a false sense of pride and security. Comforts which we start getting after driving a bicycle or a motorcycle in our colleges, or running around and doing duties in slippers, then the comforts we start getting, small comforts of life, makes us complacent. We stop thinking about anything bad happening to us. Ownership. After this, we get ownership of a lot of things, and that creates need for more. We become greedy. And these are all clouding our judgment in proper financial planning. An accumulation of resource, of lot of assets, brings a false sense of security. You have a lot of things in life, you start acquiring this, all beautiful TVs and fridge, everything. And then eventually you start having a false sense of security. I'm so rich. But eventually, are you a liquidated rich man or a person who has got it in right place? So the commonest doctor's material dreams, as I started at one point of time, the first dream was buy a car. It is the easiest thing to do today. Everybody has a car. Even my postgraduate trainees, before they join, they have a car. So buy a car on EMI of 5,000 rupees, it is there. It is the easiest goal. Second is own a house. Now it depends at what stage of life you own a house, whether you are gifted with your parents' house, you are living in that house, or you have got invested in that house, or how big a house, and whether your partner is also earning. So a lot of things start depending on owning a house. So owning a house is a very big thing in our lives. Our mindset and mentality traditionally in this world, Hindu culture or Indian culture, has been that we need to have our own house when we die. We don't want to live in a rented property. Now that is some kind of financial thing which we will also see. Own a clinic if possible. Own a clinic. You shut the clinic, you will sit in the clinic for 4 hours, but you want to own the clinic because it is your name. It identifies you with a landmark. Now that is also something, it is possible. You can own a clinic. It can make a lot of business sense also, but eventually try to think the ROI, return of investment on a clinic, and that you must, and these are the dreams. It is for every one person who's sitting here in this webinar, in this particular, our society of doctors, forget about orthopedic surgeons, everybody owns something. Then build a hospital. Well, this is the ideal situation. Everybody wants to absolutely have an hospital, to leave it as a legacy, to employ people, to become a big man, to get Padma Shri, to get all kinds of big honors, etc., etc. So these are all graded doctors' dream, to get a government award, etc. All these are way we have progressed in life, and everybody, people may refuse, people may say no, I don't want it, but actually, heart of heart, this is how the career progresses. People have different ways of doing things. People have different ways of doing it, but eventually everything boils down to hardcore finances. So a common doctor does more than 95% of doctors are working for others. They work for themselves, they think, but actually they are working for others. They are used as conduits for growth. They are rarely taken as partners. Remember that. Every hospital will pick up somebody. Oh, come and join me. I'll give you so much money. Oh, I'll give you our fees, and this is this ratio is this. How much you pay? But we are actually working as conduit for somebody with whom we are not partners. We are not partners in their profit, or we don't have their shares. But we are generally working as conduits for the growth of that institution. Now that is a very important thing. Ownership is a very, very important thing. We don't have that. Unfortunate, but that is the way of the world. Governments promote average skill set. Although we have the best doctors in the country, in the government, they are blessed with the best people. But how the system makes them redundant is what we are seeing. And the reimbursement is at the discretion of the hospital and policies of the people, policy makers, insurance, and not by experience and skills. Today, what Indroda would be getting in a certain PPN patient will be given to probably his third generation junior, who is a 28-year-old or 30-year-old starting. So that is what medicine is all about. So therefore, it is all the more important. You need to have your financial goals and security in place. So how do we save for the rainy day or days? The commonest ways we do is buy a house or property. It makes money safe. It is an immovable asset. You must understand this is not a good thing to have an immovable asset. It has variable growth. Tomorrow, if there is a government road which goes through a land which you have bought, it is finished. You are gone. Otherwise, there is a government road which goes adjacent to the land and your land is safe. It becomes 25 times in price. You don't know what will happen. The policymakers know it, and they can do anything they want with it. The cost of house in last 10 years actually has gone down, 30% regression. You invested or I invested in something at 100 rupees. Today we are looking for a buyer at 70 rupees after 10 years. Now that is the situation. So be careful. Buying a house or property has also, tomorrow if I'll sell it at 70 rupees, but I want the money tomorrow morning. I don't have it. It has poor liquidity. So you have to have very clear idea. Buy a house or property in which you want to live, in which you want to do farming, in which you want to enjoy, which you want to physically live in. Otherwise, don't buy it. If you invest for giving it to your children, they will, if there are 5 children, they will fight, cut it into 5 pieces and finish it off. It is not going to be good for their healthy long-term life. Bank FDs and bonds are the traditional security which doctors have. Why? They think money is safe. It is a mobile, which is true. Mobile investment, you can get it cashed anywhere. It has limited returns. That is a drawback because it will never give you more than 6% or 7%. It has good liquidity. That is also a truth because next day you can get the redemption. So your money may not grow, but at least it is safe. Now that is where we can, and bonds also should be government. They don't fail. Private bonds, God bless you. Insurance is a must have. I will come to it in elaboration, but it is a very poor investment. Please do not do insurance for the sake of investment. This is what traditionally we have been taught, and we do it for investment, which is wrong. Now, the life insurance thumb rules are the DIME formula. DIME is debt and expenses, income and mortgage, and education. So income, what is income? In insurance parlance, the income is calculated as the number of years that your family would require financial support multiplied by your current annual income. So current annual income, if suppose it is 50 lakh rupees, and your financial support is calculated till one's child becomes independent after education. So at a 35-year-old whose child is 2-year-old, and he contemplates at 24, his child will be completely educated. So 24 minus 2 is 22 years, and the current annual income is say 30 lakh rupees. So 22 multiplied by 30 is the amount of insurance that person must have. Okay. So the ideal thing. The best way to find the ideal coverage of life is, as I have just said, financial obligation, and subtract the assets which you already have. So you have some saving, you have some bonds, you have some asset in the land, life insurance, and you subtract it, and then you get a figure which say 2 crore or 2.5 crore for a 35 lakh earning person. This is the formula of insurance. But I will tell you the basic thumb rule for insurance for us is 10 times multiplied by your annual income, and that can be for the term insurance. I am coming to term insurance because that is what I think is the true insurance. The drawbacks of this rule are that it does not take detailed look at the requirement of family. It's a thumb rule. Okay, it doesn't consider other life insurances which you have, and it does not provide cover for the parents if you still have parents living with you. So I feel life insurance is not an investment. It is a hedge against death. You are investing your future of your family, and it should not be redeemable till the time you have lived your life as you want. Suppose I have taken, like, I live till 80 years or 85 years, or I want to live till that time. Now my hedge against my life would be at 80 years or 75 years or 70 years, whatever. So we must have that level of thought process evolution that I would be able, and I will be facing it someday. Therefore, I take it at 85 years. I come what may, I will keep investing if I'm alive. If I'm not alive, it will come back to my family. So life insurance product is a hedge against death. So it has to be a term insurance. It should provide for whole life. Remember that. It should provide. It should not be redeemable at 60 years. Then you have lost your money actually. That there are much better instruments to invest in than to in life insurance. It should be able to give you long-term care, which is whole life. It should have 2 important riders. One is critical illness cover and one is disability cover. You must have it. All the term insurance, they come with some riders. Please buy those riders if you are buying the term insurance. So buy a term insurance. When we start our life, we earn our first money, serious money, which is after a senior residency or during a senior residency, whatever may consider a life goal of 1 lakh rupees per month. We must buy a first term insurance immediately instead of doing anything else. Nothing else is needed. Or when you have your first child, if you put it as your goal, okay, my marriage is my goal, then marriage should be the time you should buy a term insurance since you have started a family. So this is all my calculation and the way I have thought. There is not from the books, but I have understood these things after a lot of reading. According to me, ideal term cover between 30 to 40 age should have a coverage for home loan plus vehicle loan. Already if somebody has taken a home loan, vehicle loan plus business debt if somebody is doing some kind of investment in business, plus 15 times the annual income. So let us say at a 35-year age, we have a young orthopedic surgeon earning say 30 lakh rupees a year or 25 lakh rupees a year. So, and he has a home loan which is coming to say 5 lakh or 6 lakh rupees a year, a vehicle loan coming to about 50,000 a year or 70,000 a year. Business debt may not have. Plus, so home loan plus vehicle loan plus his 30 lakh multiplied by 15, since he is less than 40-year-old, that should become, so that is almost 3, 4.5, almost 6 crore rupees he should have as a term loan. You know, the term loan of 6 crore rupees for that orthopedic surgeon will not be more than 50, 60, 70,000 rupees a year. But that would give him, or even 1 lakh rupees a year or 2 lakh rupees a year. But that 35 minus 2 lakhs, which he will have in his hand after giving the term loan premium, probably will give him a security that, okay, if happens to me something before 40, my wife and my child will get 6 crore rupees, which is a fantabulous amount. And God forbid if something like COVID comes in, these are the things which we need to teach them.
Okay.
Ideal term as per me between 40 to 50. Hello? Between 40 to 50 is home loan plus business debts, because vehicle loans are usually not such a big significant part. And then 10 times plus per annual income, because slowly the EMIs are rising, the premium is rising. And you will see, if you calculate by this formula, probably you will get a term insurance of 8 to 9 crore rupees, and at the same time, or 10 crore rupees for average orthopedic surgeons. And eventually they will also by their income be able to manage the. Third is when we are 50 to 60 in our age group, most of us, and that time ideal term cover should be between 50 to 60. At this point of time in our life, most of us have given up the home loans. Whatever business debts, we must have done some kind of business. We must have invested in some hospital or some kind of clinic or something. Now that is a business debt. We must have taken bank loans. So if we have any business debt, we include it plus 5 times the annual income. Suppose somebody at my stage will be earning 1 crore rupees or 80 lakh rupees in a year, and that multiplied by 5 times will make it almost 5-6 crore rupees, because between 50 to 60, your premium is very high. So instead of servicing a very high premium, you have to cover till the age of 60. And that should not be more than 8 to 10 crore rupees. Every time you will see the figure will come between 6 to 10 crore rupees in all the decades. And it will be much easier to service and the EMIs will be better. Ideal term cover after 60 should be only business debt. You see, your earning will remain. After 60, most of us will be at a stage where we would have completed our children's marriages. They would have done the children's education. Most of the children are settled. They are earning on their own. Wife, if earning, is also settled. Parents may or may not be there. If they are there, geriatric care we will be able to provide. So therefore, what we are left with is business debt. So if the business debt is 1 or 2 crore, we may go for a term insurance so that our family is not troubled after us. I am sure everybody has enough saving by 60 that they will be able to match their treatment as well as other costs. So nobody has to wait for somebody to procure money from their account to help their family, if we do this as the first thing in our life when we start earning. Remember to take all the riders: critical care rider, cancer cover rider, accident and disability rider. They come from much less money, but they give a lot of money if these things happen, and save the family from unaccounted, unnecessary expenditure. So who is the best insurer? I am actually very short. I can discuss this for next 2 hours, but I'm making it very short. Please bear with me if you are not already bored. So who is the best insurer? The institutions with largest market capital, the institution with lowest debts, and the robust management. We have to do a bit of due diligence. You just can't give your insurance to anybody. Institutions with lowest NPAs, non-performing assets, best claim settlement ratios, almost 98 to 99% should be the settlement of the claim. Best claim settlement time. There is a difference between one private insurer and the LIC. LIC has the best claim settlement ratio, but a poorer claim settlement time. So you need to understand, you have to have a mix of both. And the other part, the private one, has 0.1% less claim settlement ratio, but a much faster claim settlement time. So both need to have a good ratio. So top spot goes to LIC on government side and HDFC on the private trust side. Now there is a time to ponder. Remember, that insurance is not an investment, it is a hedge for your life. Please remember this. Next, it all depends. We come to savings. It all depends when you start saving. You see, the first of the block is the best kid on the block. It is not about how much you earn. It is about how you save, which is very important. What is your attitude towards money, which is very important. So my formula, again, it is my own. I tell my son, I tell all the children who meet me, but I think it is very strict formula as the way I work also. It is a very disciplined formula, but it never applied to my life, unfortunately. I have learned it the wrong way. So it should be, ideally, it is not possible, it's not easy, but saving is equal to 100 minus age plus minus 10%. So suppose I earn 100 rupees. My expenditure should be my age. Suppose my age is 32 years. So plus 10% is 42 years. So I will spend 42 rupees and save 52 rupees at the age of 32. That is my formula. So if I go by this formula and I take that corpus out for saving, I have enough to save at every year in my life, and I can keep increasing my expenditure and I can keep decreasing my saving, but my corpus will keep increasing, as you will see. So this is just one slide which will say everything. Ideal saving goal for a doctor, what should it be? These are all very indigenous slides. So if somebody is recording, that's very nice. Ideal saving goals for a doctor: at less than 40 years of age, only insurance and equities. If you don't have your own hospital or you don't have your own business, please invest in insurance and equities. First thing is insurance, and then there are equities. Equities also, you should take help of people who understand businesses. Equity, meaning equity in the hospital, is also an equity. Equity giving in business is also an equity. Equity is not about stock market. Equity is about investing in any business or something which is beyond just your orthopedic surgery. Equity is also in an orthopedic hospital. So it's all about equity. At between 50 to 40, keep investing, but build institutions and businesses. That is the time when you have matured. You have matured with your finances. You have got some stability in life, and you will have to think at this point of time whether you want to build or invest in an institution or build a business also, which is, suppose somebody wants to do a food business, like somebody like Tirthankar wants to start a gym. Well, this is the time, best time to start it, because then you will be able to enjoy the benefits, reap the benefits of what you are doing. Between 50 to 60, consolidate the institutions or keep investing. See, my keep investing will keep all the time. You have to keep investing. You have to become somebody who was Warren Buffett or anybody who has been an investor will testify. You cannot stop investing. You cannot become complete expenditure. But at the same time, between 50 and 60 for a doctor, you slowly start liquidating because you have other goals to do, marriages, education, getting off, all these things are there. So you need liquidation also. Between 60 to 70, start giving. This is the philosophy of life. Start giving, keep liquidating, keep investing. You see, there is now a semblance of, I am going to start giving away what I have got. I have to organize my life so that there is no jhamela behind me, as well as I have to keep investing till I am there. And after 70 also, give and liquidate, but keep investing. Because if you don't invest, you will always be asking for money. There will be a stagnancy in your life. So therefore, keep investing. Your formula, which I have given you, 100 minus so and so, will give you still 20% to invest, 25% to invest, and you will have 75% to give and liquidate. So giving will become big and liquidation will become big, and you will still keep investing and growing. So the mantras which I have devised: every money saved is money earned. Don't think that we have not done a clinic today, so we have not earned money. If you have invested in some place and you earn 5,000 rupees out of there, you earn 5,000 rupees. Why do you have to discriminate between money? Money earned from clinic is not the only money which you are going to earn. So always save and invest. Invest or perish. If you don't invest and you just take money, put it in savings account, put it in some kind of house or something which is not very low accrual, and it is not able to beat the inflation, you will perish. You will not be able to survive. Never wait for tomorrow. This COVID has taught us very clearly. Kalke investment korbo jerokom exercise korbo na kalke. That's why we will not invest tomorrow also. We will start today. We love our skill, we love our work, and we have very inflated ego. But money is what runs the world and our family needs. So therefore, we have to be very pragmatic about our lives. The only and the most honorable goal in life should be an honorable death. Leaving our families debt-free, the world a better place. All this can happen if we all work towards this goal. So what do we need? We need to make our generations understand the following: how to fend for our future, get over-insured for the term life, not under-insured, over-insured. Invest in other businesses till they start their own. You see, till the time you are able to start your own business or your own hospital, invest in something which will get you back that some money. It will grow. Keep investing till death or disability. Don't stop investing. That is the mantra. No one is old enough to invest. Keep investing. Start now. So nirvana goals of financial freedom, according to me, is to live and to reach a station in life where one practices his or her skill for the real pleasure of it, rather than its monetary return. You will become much bigger a person than you think you can ever become. And to be able to spend on the pleasures, and listen to this word, charity, alike. So you can give money to your pleasure and to poor also, without asking and without remorse. You should be able to attain that level in life if you want to have financial freedom. Should we do charity? If yes, I will leave it up to you, because I do believe in charity and there are ways which I do it and we will do it. You should know when, how, and how much. You should have at least 4 to 5% of your life's income dedicated to charity. Please do it, and you will realize how much it will bring back to you in different social ways. But if you are saying no, think 10 times why, and therefore decide what others will do for us when we are in trouble. We should think of doing for them in a small way, or downtrodden people. That also makes our life complete. That for me is also an investment goal, and that is what we are supposed to do as doctors. So these are 7 colors of Vigor, as you see. First color, stay safe and stay invested. Stay invested in life and safety. Stay invested in friendships and relations. Stay invested in society and charity. Stay invested in honor and commitments. Stay invested in mankind and national pride. And stay invested in beneficial and long-term goals in career and growth. Stay invested, my friend. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you, Vikas. Oh, excellent.
Beautiful.
What a presentation.
Fantastic.
I think you must give this lecture to juniors as well. You know, we are now between 50 and 60. To give this to a crowd of young doctors who have just started their career. Excellent. I think Arnav must allow us some time more, because we are taken some extra time. So we'll have the last speaker. Vikas, can you unshare your screen?
Yeah. Thank you. Just a minute.
Before BD prepares his talk, over to Rajiv to have a few words about our sponsor.
Hi. I must thank Striker India for having sponsored this webinar. And I think that's the reason we're ending it up with the MDM, and we'll learn more about MDM from BD. So over to you, BD.
Yeah, hello. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah,
okay.
Yes, BD, you're audible.
Well, good evening.
The panelists, just a minute, BD. The panelists,
Yeah, Dr. panelists, I believe.
Yeah, Dr. JBC, Dr. Rakesh Rajput, and Dr. Kanchan Bhattacharya.
Okay, fantastic.
All of them here, yeah.
Yeah, so I'll start sharing my screen. Well, thank you very
BD,
much
all yours.
For the opportunity, and we've just been privy to 2 fantastic lectures. So after this, I'm afraid we will be back to something mundane orthopedics. So
But this is how you want to invest.
allow Zoom to, yeah, okay. Can you see my slides?
Not yet.
No, there are too many things happening here. Now?
No, sir.
Universal access. Allow Zoom to share your screen.
Or no?
Yes. Sir, it is open from my side.
Okay, I'm clicking share.
Yeah, sir, please click on the share screen.
Yeah, it is saying open system preferences. I don't know what this is.
Share screen, then select your PPT, then okay.
I have selected that.
Huh.
And it is, I can see the PPT.
Click on that and okay.
Yeah, that's what it's, something is coming in between.
You need to select yes or agree to that.
Privacy, it says privacy, firewall, general, security.
Yes, sir, you need to say agree to that or select yes.
So what shall I click, privacy or general?
You need to cancel that, sir. It's difficult. I can't understand your screen.
Okay, okay. Just give me half a minute. I'll just
sure.
Get it done.
Yes. So in between, we can go through the discussion or any question answer.
Yeah, any question for Vikas?
Vikas?
Yeah.
When you were talking about investment, okay, fine. You're talking about keep investing. So at certain age, your income increases, and then after again a while, your income decreases. But what you have invested seems to mature at a time. Let's say you were probably investing something for 10 years, 15 years. And then when you reinvest these things, what is the best, what I was looking for is, what is the best way of investing? Like, is it mutual funds, or is it, different ways of share markets, or stocks? Where do you actually would suggest for people to invest?
So, see, the first thing for this is, since it is for doctors, the first thing which as I said, the biggest investment is life. So you have a term life plan. Now that is your hedge against all the mishaps which is happening. The second thing which we do is to have a investment in equity, as I said. Now, because you do not have enough funds initially to build something, you invest in early age, the risk appetite is very high. So you tend to invest in stock markets or in other businesses. I never think of investment in stock market as something which will give me return in 2 years' time. Any company share which you buy, suppose you buy Dr. Reddy's, or you buy, say, maybe we know pharmaceuticals, we know Apollo Hospital, we know Fortis Hospital. Even if you're working in CMRI, you can be part owner of Fortis Hospital by buying those shares. Now, how you treat your share is important. If you treat it with ownership, you will look at the balance sheet, you will look at the issues which the hospital is facing, and you will exit at a time when you realize that this hospital is going under a lot of debt, and not swayed by what market is thinking about that particular. Now, that is the way of investment. So that you keep investing, you pick up 5-6 important things after discussion. You can do it on your own. If you want to go for mutual funds, you can keep doing it for lifetime. There is no maturity period. Mutual fund may say 5 years, but you can keep on doing it repeatedly. That at the end of 5 years, whatever corpus is, you restart that investment and you keep doing it if you like the returns which you are getting. So there is no end to that. The land and the asset which you are thinking about, I think in our own lifetime, whatever we own as land and asset, the only thing which we should leave behind is an asset which can be used and equally divisible in our progenies. If we have land and asset which is beyond one land asset, and we have 5 people to share it, it is a big problem, and we don't leave good legacy for our future. So we should be careful with that. Now, to your question, that what you should do when your investment matures, if it is in fixed instruments like bond or FDs, you should immediately put into some kind of a long-term equity capital. And equities, believe me, you can go up to 80 years and you can keep investing in equities. You will not lose. If you don't take out, you will not lose. But if you are looking at stock market prices every day, one day you will get jittery and you will lose money and come out. That is wrong. If you have the right attitude, long-term staying power, and you don't overindulge. You will probably go through this whole cycle.
So Vikas, I'll
Now
tell you
we
what. Yeah, okay. I think we can start with BD.
Yeah, we'll start with BD.
BD, you're on.
Hello.
Yes.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Can you see
Screen
my
is visible. Yeah, your screen is visible. Make it full screen.
Yeah. Can you see now?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So this is about the dual mobility cup, and we just briefly go through the theory behind it and what's the rationale, and then we can discuss a few cases where we will welcome the views of the panelists. So, why this question about dual mobility? It is because obviously it is aimed at reducing the dislocation of the THR, and as you can see, this is Australian registry data. Prosthetic dislocation is the second most commonest cause of revision, so it is something to be worried about. And it's as high as 5 to 30%, 5% in primaries, 30% in revisions. And some of the aggravating factors are mentioned here: old age, female, posterior approach, small diameter head. This is from a paper by Berry. And if you look at this, there's quite a famous paper by Bozic et al. This came in 2009, and here they found that dislocation was the commonest cause of revision, and it was as high as 22.5%. And then this is actually more than mechanical dislocation and infection. Mechanical loosening and infection. So an interesting concept actually by Gilles Bousquet, of the Frenchman, who combined the principles of Sir John Charnley, which was the small head, low friction arthroplasty, along with Mackie Farrar, with who had the large head and gave stability. So dual mobility combines the two concepts and makes use of the best part of both these concepts. So if you look at the components of the dual mobility socket, you have the acetabular shell. Then there is a polished cobalt chrome liner, and in between the femoral head and the metal liner is the polyethylene. So that comes in between the two surfaces. And what does it do? The small head has less sliding distance and therefore has less wear. This is the well-known Charnley's principle. And if you take the entire construct, then that has a large head and therefore has a large jump distance and has a dramatically reduced dislocation rate.
Can't hear you, VD.
We can't hear you.
Vidya, you are not audible.
I've lost. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, now it's working. Okay, so mobile bearings. So this is it shows the construct here. This is from Stryker. Evolutus is the other very popular design. And you have stability, longevity, and advanced fixation. So this is a very interesting diagram. This shows the exact principles of the dual mobility. Now you see, this is one articulation between the femoral head and the polyethylene, and this is where the normal movement happens. Now, when this reaches the end of its range, then the movement happens between the poly and the outer shell. So that's why you have two planes of mobility, and that's what dramatically prevents impingement and therefore reduces dislocation. Something happening. responding again. Okay. So this is an operative photograph. There you can see the polished shell, and this is how you actually need to assemble. You see that there is this a machine is there where you press fit the femoral head into the poly liner. This is what it looks like when you apply it on the femoral stem.
PD can't hear.
And this is a picture, an X-ray picture. So again,
lost
this is a Philippot series where he has a very, very low rate of dislocation. And this is another series by Vasukutty, where also there's a just 2.1% dislocated compared to those which was as to the conventional hip, which was as high as 25%. Okay, so I think there's so much for the introduction. Let us go to a few cases. Now, this was a 59-year-old female, and she was very active, otherwise healthy, came with this fracture. So can I ask the panelists that, I decided to do a dual mobility here because knowing that a fracture neck femur, there is a higher recorded rate of dislocation in literature, and even when you take full precaution, the other thing is what happens is there is a tendency that you tend to lengthen the limb if you make it tight. So Rakesh, would you have done something different?
BD, just fracture neck femur in my book is not a very good indication for dual mobility. And the principal reason is that for immediate dislocation risk, what you're looking at is good. But when we have looked at the results of dual mobility in primary THRs on long-term basis, they have fallen short slightly. So you're going to compromise on one way and gain on somewhere else. So I don't think it's by itself. But if you have a very fat lady who's now fractured this patient, or who's got very laxity type issues with her, so then it becomes an indication.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, in female patients who are otherwise active but who have low, as you can see, the soft tissues are very scanty, who are of a small build, is I suppose an indication. So I think if we move on to the next example, if I stop moving the slide, it stops moving. I don't know.
You've gone backwards, BD.
Yeah, so now this is the next one. Avascular, so avascular necrosis, again recorded in literature that this has a higher rate of dislocation. And this was a slightly elderly gentleman, again with low, very, very poor muscle mass. And this is, as you can see, this is the hip. So JBC, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Yeah, JBC, would you have done something different?
Like as a primary, I don't do this dual motion. I think I would have used a larger head, a 36 head with a pinnacle cup, and done a THR. Touch wood, I haven't had any dislocations with the large heads. Mm-hmm. So dual motion, I don't know. I usually keep this for my revision cases where mainly it's issue with the soft tissues where I'm not confident or see that the soft tissues are not great. Then only I go for this dual motion.
Yeah.
But as a primary case, I would have done.
Point well taken. But what I can say from whatever dual mobilities I have done, none of them have dislocated till now. Whereas I can't say the same for the other head. So where there is some doubt, well, you can consider this. Although of course the point is well taken.
BD, can I say something? BD,
yeah.
Can I say something?
Sure, please. It's your forum.
Yeah. What I am saying is I've actually stopped doing these single hip replacements. I'm universally now doing this DM. I just think it's safer. I think the physics supports it.
You are doing what? Can I
think DM, dual motion, dual mobility.
You are doing a dual mobility.
I'm just for all of them, I'm doing DM.
Okay.
Because I think the physics supports it. The physical wear will be less at both layers. The dislocation rate will be absolutely minimum.
Yes.
Absolutely. And I'm doing all of my cases for which require hip replacements as DM.
So that's the other extreme, but I think
it is the other extreme. I agree. It is the other extreme. I agree. I know that the hip replacements have been around for, I don't know, 50 years now, and have worked for 10 years, 12 years, whatever. But the physics and the science behind it is why I'm using DM for all.
So JVC, you want to reply to that?
Well, you can't argue with Sanjay.
Imagine you're on Republic TV.
But see, if you look at the history of hip replacements, that you started with a 22.25 millimeter head, then you went on to the larger heads, which showed that even if you use it for revision cases, that it doesn't actually have a very high number of dislocations. And particularly, yes, I agree with dual motion cups, but as I said, my reservation is, or my preference is, where I see that there is questionable soft tissue integrity. There only I would use dual mobility.
Yes.
DM cups, but otherwise I think I can get away with a large head, and which will give me equally good results.
Joydeep, I have also used the large heads from the moment they came out. I absolutely agree with you on that point. However, I feel the dual mobility provides extra support, and probably, we don't know that yet. It hasn't been 20 years. Extra longevity.
Can I come in for a second?
Yeah, sure, please.
One thing is, in the primary case of doing a dual mobility is, I think one of the indications is where you want to give a very good motion with safety. So that's one of the indications that the dual mobility is now being used for. It was not used for that before. So when you do it in a 59-year-old fracture neck femur, that is the reason most probably for active individuals, very active individuals, that you need that. The second is this X-ray. I see the acetabular cup is cemented in. When would you cement a dual mobility?
Yeah, so there are two options available, and literature results are better for the non-cemented ones.
Yeah.
But the cemented ones are significantly cheaper. So the one of the drawbacks of the dual mobility and drawbacks for using it in every case is the expense. I mean, that is one of the things that you have to factor in. So the cemented ones are a little bit cheaper.
Can I say something, BD?
Yeah.
I've been using dual mobility for quite some time, not in large numbers. And I agree with Joydeep. Like you said, both counts, you cannot argue with Sanjay. And the other part is,
why can't you always be?
Oh, you're Republic TV. You are too well geared. And I tend to use it for my revision cases. And the fracture that you showed earlier, I done about 3 or 4 of them in exactly that kind of situation. Early to mid 50s, hoping that they would get better mobility. I cannot say they've got better mobility because I think they are about the same. But what I'm aiming at is the reason I kept shy of them is about 4 or 5 years ago, I had some unexplained pain, which it took me a while to figure out that what they had was interprosthetic dislocation. Now, even though the newer ones purportedly unlikely to have them, even the Saint-Etienne group seem to feel that that is a reality. They seem to think that when they come up with all-round ceramic on ceramic, the chances of this is going to be less. always the poly has been the one which was at fault. So with better poly, the one that Stryker has come out with, the one that Biomet has come out with, are likely to be better. But if you have one or two of those, you get shy. I'm glad you haven't had any.
No,
Kanchanda,
yes.
I have actually used Evolucus, ceramic and ceramic. It's no longer available.
Yeah, I know.
Due to price constraints.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And that was my go-to for all young hip replacements. But in spite of that, I would actually prefer this. I mean, since it's a dual resistance, I mean, rubbing on two sides, implant, I would actually prefer this. I have stopped doing primary total hip replacements of any sort without dual mobility, because I think the physics support it. I think the mechanics support it.
Okay, I think, shall we move on?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah, BD, please continue.
Yeah, the computer is not responding. I don't know what is the problem. Why is this happening?
Needs one more mobility.
This is non-mobility, not dual mobility.
Buy a better computer, laptop, or whatever you have now.
This is the best. This is a Mac.
I mean, this is the Vikas Invest.
I don't know. Just
Here's the net connection.
That's the reason you should never have a Mac.
Is it?
No, I'm on a Mac.
At least when it is not moving, can I come in?
Yeah.
To Dr. Dedicated sir.
Ashes on a ball.
What I was saying is it that we are starting to use dual mobility because of its availability, or more because of well, obviously due to the physical reasons and all that.
What?
Because technically, like to say to any surgeon, all distinguished surgeons who are present here, how many of you have really faced a problem of dislocation or a wear and tear less than 15 years or so, 20 years? I don't know. I think none of you have used a dual mobility for more than 15 years. Significant wear and tear of a well done hip replacement less than 15 years, which has worn out, or maybe a dislocation in a well done hip replacement compared to a dual mobility. The question is open to all.
So can I answer?
That's what I said, that if you look into even your own practice and think over it, how many dislocations have you had in a well done, properly done hip replacement? Or how many patients have come back to you in less than 15 years with wear, and you had to revise it?
Can I say very few?
The other option, one more point which I wanted to mention is, which Dr. Rakesh Rajput sir had said earlier, in neck femurs, because of the flexibility or what we call laxity, there is always a tendency that we end up lengthening the limb to gain some stability. So in that case, in neck femurs in young, I feel that dual mobility is an option. With a good bone stock, where you can hammer it or whatever, you can make a press fit cup. I feel that's an option. It's just my personal opinion. It's not that it's an absolute opinion. I mean, it's not an absolute necessity. But in neck femurs, where you feel that you might have to give a little larger head and longer head to get into the length issue, to get into stability issue, which might affect the length. In that case, dual mobility might be of help. This is my personal opinion. Dr. Rakesh said this earlier.
Sudhanu, there's something we need to understand. When we give lectures and when we read literature about dislocation in primary hips, we talk about 1.5 to 3%, something like that we talk about. But when we want to bring in dual mobility, you suddenly saw BD's figures were jumping at one stage up to 30%. Now, it doesn't justify, our scientific thoughts into it. So on one hand, when we talk about, approach, let's say posterior versus anterior, we say it's almost the same dislocation. and you're talking about 2% dislocations. Suddenly, when you want to bring in dual mobility use, you talk about dislocation rates 7%, 10%, 15%. So where does that come from? That's number one. Number two, you should also think about, if it was that safe, then why is not everybody doing it? Because cost is not an issue with other people. If you look at all the registries, the reason what happened in France was their primary dual mobilities was something like 30%. That's where it's come from. It's come from France. So then suddenly when they realized it's very good for dislocation, they jumped to 90%. But if you now look at France, which is now settling down to the proper use, for primaries, they have brought it down to around 65%. But that's like a huge input from French literature. So which is now being incorporated by the Western, or we talk about the American literature. And what American literature is coming out with is the drawbacks of dual mobility in primary THR for long-term use. And I think you should read those papers, that it is not a panacea. It needs to be used very judicially in actual indications, and it shouldn't be used for everybody. There is something which happens with dual mobility, like we've been talking about giving increased range of movement. But when dual mobility starts from between its own head into the polyethylene, when it finishes that, then the polyethylene starts moving. But what happens to the neck? It impinges upon the actual cup. So impingement becomes an issue when the second range of movement starts. And that has not been sorted out yet with dual mobilities.
Rakesh,
yeah,
can I tell
Sanjay.
You?
I'm not arguing, Sanjay, even I'm not arguing with you.
I'm not arguing with you, sir. Okay. You not be afraid of me. Come on.
Okay,
We're just talking, man.
Go on.
The impingement issue has two issues.
I have operated on several Muslim patients.
Right.
And they have to do the namaz. They have to do the namaz.
Try to log in the meantime, we'll carry on.
Sanjay, I think
regarding this impingement issue, it is one is the component impingement.
Sutanu, I'll answer Sanjay's question first. Let me do that, because we've had dual mobilities. I remember when it was okay. Yeah.
Bidida has lost his connection, so we carry on with the discussion till he reconnects.
Right, no problem. So this issues. So I remember dual mobility was launched in India in around 2000.
I haven't finished yet.
12 or 13. So Sanjay, I think we shouldn't comment on it. We've only used it for 7-8 years at the maximum. We've not had it before.
Yeah, Rakesh, precisely. We've only used it for 7-8 years. But the initial results appear to be really damn good.
It will be good. Initial results will be good. Sanjay.
It really appears to be really damn good. We've only used 7 years. Now,
but then,
I don't know, 5 years, 10 years down the line, if it doesn't work, but the mechanics say, and the wear ratio and God knows whatever physics you say, since it's dual side wear and tear, it probably will last. From the scientific point of view, it probably will. And now my patients can read namaz properly. They can sit on the floor. I allow them after 6 months.
Okay, I think Sutanu will get your question also in. Then we can.
What I was saying is regarding the impingement, if I can come in.
Yeah.
There are two types of impingement. The one is the component impingement. The other is the soft tissue or muscular impingement. So component impingement, it comes later. More initially comes the soft tissue impingement or the iliopsoas impingement. So some of the dual mobility cups have a groove in their acetabular component to allow the iliopsoas to accommodate inside it. There has been issues earlier where the iliopsoas impingement has led to whatever dislocation, pain, or whatever.
Hello.
So yes, we let BD come back. Yeah.
I'm having problem with my internet actually.
Yeah.
BD, get a better internet.
Achha, can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Come full screen, BD.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, now it seems good.
Go through it quickly before you get into trouble again.
So
get a geofiber correction. It's brilliant.
Yeah. So this is another case, failed DHS fixation. So Kanchanda? Hello? Kanchanda is there?
Yes, this I think I agree with you, because this would be inherently unstable, and I would also be inclined to use a dual mobility on this.
So yeah, because here the anatomy was lost, and so we were not very sure actually regarding the exact version and the combined anti-version. And additional plate was used to fix the fractured ununited greater trochanter. So this is another place where there is an indication. This was a very interesting case. This was a rather frail lady, who had a hemiarthroplasty done and which kept dislocating. So we really didn't know what was the reason. So again, coming back to Rakesh, can you?
Yeah. So Rakesh, BD, anybody who's dislocated, I think in our books in current scenario does become a case to be considered for dual mobility, which I think is superior to constraint liners.
Yes. So I think to a large
100%.
extent, dual mobility has replaced constraint liners, isn't it?
Yes,
Because
yes.
of all the inherent defects. So would you have done the same, or you think this was an over treatment?
No. It's fine.
Yeah. So this is another example, and
my only issue is that you've been cementing almost all of these dual mobility.
No, actually, somehow I don't know. I seem to have selected.
Okay, fine.
In fact, the truth is that I do more of non-cemented actually.
I have a small question here, BD.
Yeah, sure.
The one that is dislocated is a bipolar.
Yeah.
Which is a large head.
Yeah.
And here we're using a dual mobility. Was there something else going on there? Because that when a bipolar dislocates, it's not because of washing. I think it's because of some
No, this patient had extremely poor abductors. He had extremely poor abductors, and I don't know whether there was this bipolar was actually done somewhere else. So I don't know whether during the bipolar there was some problem, whether there was some surgical injury to the abductors, because this patient had extremely poor abductors. And the only other option really I thought then would be, just to put it back and then maybe keep her in a brace forever. So that was a very difficult option. So far she seems to be, making out okay.
Okay.
Can I come in?
Sure. Please feel free to make all your comments. Yeah.
No. So this was okay. This was one of the cases which I would say that it is. I would not say it's an absolute indication, but it's a almost absolute indication for a dual mobility.
Yeah.
Because here we are more worried about the soft tissues, as Wbas sir has said that whenever you are unsure that what is the reason the soft tissues are failing,
exactly.
In that case we can obviously use dual mobility to. I mean, it's not that we have known what is the reason, but that we know that this is the solution.
If you read the paper by Veera from Chicago group, and this was in 2014. So he has classified into 6 types. Now, the type 6 recurrent dislocation is because of unknown reasons. And he has said in his paper that one of the ways, if you at all you want to treat a recurrent dislocation because of unknown reason, is to use a dual mobility. So I think, taking a leaf out of Sanjay Da, when in doubt, use a dual mobility, I suppose. Anybody else? Somebody else wanted to make a comment.
Yeah, BD.
Yeah.
What I wanted to say is, listen, in this particular case,
yeah,
I mean, you have absolutely no choice. You could use a larger diameter head, but at the same time, that would not guarantee you against dislocation.
You can't use a head bigger than this, though.
I know you can't. And even in this case, where you have used the DM, the cup is higher than the opposite hip.
Yeah.
Okay. And
just one
listen,
thing.
I mean,
let me be devil's advocate. Sanjay, say suppose 5 years ago, before this dual mobility came in, if you had this case, would you have revised it or would you have left her with a girdle stone?
Yeah, good question.
Depends on the age and condition of the patient.
Now the age is what was her age?
She was around 75 nearly.
75? Would you have left her with a girdle stone?
And condition?
Yeah, BD, I'd like to make a
constraint.
And condition of the patient, please.
BD, I would just like to
if she was a fit 75-year-old, yeah, girdle stones might have been better. But if she was unfit. But if she was a fit 75-year-old, then this is definitely what's required.
No, what I'm saying is 5 years ago when dual mobility was not available, you would
That's
have.
what I'm saying. If it was not available,
Yeah.
if it was not available, I would have decided, is she fit or is she unfit? If she had been fit, we would have to go for a constrained cup.
Yeah, I would have then used a constrained cup and put her in a hip abduction brace. That would have been my solution. Indra, you wanted to say something?
No, but the reason of fitness, now let me come into this. The reason of fitness and unfitness, even to do a girdle stone, we need to give a spinal anesthesia or a general anesthesia, whatever is needed.
No. Fitness, not, look, the
activity level.
anesthesia and everything is absolutely required for any operation you do. But it's a question of the mobility of the patient. Can the patient mobilize? Anesthesia has nothing to do with this.
Yeah.
BD, I'd like
No,
to.
what I'm saying is that girdle stone means leave it as such or remove the prosthesis. What there's a doubt in that. I could not understand.
Sutano, I think too many people talking. Indra has been trying to talk for quite some time.
Yeah, sure.
I just wanted to make a point that this is a cemented Thompson. And in this 75-year-old, you have put in another cemented stem.
Yeah.
Without a ETO.
Without a?
ETO.
Yeah. So this was actually cement in cement.
That's what I wanted to point out.
Yeah, this was cement in cement.
Yeah. Fine.
So I think let's move on. Yeah, so this was a case, with maybe some avascular necrosis with a severe arthritis. And here again, I was a bit afraid of the impingement. So then we went in and did another dual mobility here. So then she was reasonably comfortable. Anybody wants to make a comment or shall we move on?
Yeah, I would like to. I would like to say that what was the absolute reason for dual mobility? I don't think there was much chance of an impingement in this case. No.
Listen, I think this
I mean, it could have done well. I mean, if years back, you would have also done a large head.
Dr.
See, the problem with the dual mobility is that, you see, as long as it doesn't dislocate, then you can argue. The moment it dislocates, then you will think that why not? I should have done a dual mobility. So I agree. I mean, it's not an absolute indication.
Can I just my whatever little.
This was an infected.
BD, I think Vikas wants to say something.
Yeah, sure, Vikas.
Yeah, this whole discussion is as if we are in the knee parlance. We are looking at doing a TC3 for all the knees which we get. Now
that's one way of looking at it. But
yeah, but
this
why?
is just an option.
I understand. So what here we are saying is that as I heard Sanjay speak and as I'm seeing the presentation which is being so nicely done, all these difficult cases. But traditionally and from times immemorial, I doubt whether other surgeries have completely failed. So very specified indications which are coming out, we need to have a very specific guideline from you after your presentation. Yeah. What is it that you think is the most imperative indication for doing what you are doing?
See, look, if you ask for absolute indications, then really it is in a revision scenario where the abductors are extremely poor.
That's it.
That is the real indication. What I'm showing here is a series of cases where dual mobility can be considered. You need not do it compulsorily, but it can be considered and it has given good results. And these are all borne out in literature. These are places where you can use them. But like I said, yes, I mean, these are cases picked out over the last maybe 10 years or so. So it's not that you keep doing it. I'm not that frequent an user of dual mobility. I do it occasionally, maybe more in revisions actually than here. But these are some of the cases of primaries where I have done and I have not regretted. So that's all the purpose of this presentation. That's all. It's not to endorse a particular product or anything.
No. It's not about product.
Because as far as I am concerned, every single hip replacement I have to do will always be a dual mobility.
No, that's okay. We are traditionally bound by that thought process.
I mean, that's as
I
far
do
as
it
I'm
this way.
concerned. Just put
I
my
do
point
it
of
this
view.
That's
way
fine. We
is what.
respect your opinion,
No,
but that's
I
not the
want to come
message
in
we should
here.
go out. I
I'm
feel.
sorry. I want to come in here. This is the way I do it. Has been something which has traditionally
No,
brought us
no,
down.
because,
You see,
because this is not the way I do it.
yeah.
I have studied, I've looked at this, I've seen through it.
Your justifications are
I have
important.
followed it fully. I know total hip replacements, even when 22 millimeter heads have worked.
Exactly.
I know all of this. I know the history. I know everything about it. Okay.
So
Hello, everybody. Can we wind up in about 5 minutes?
Given the current situation, I would rather my patient has full motion, full control, and probably can't be proven yet along the life of the implant. And that is what I think dual mobility provides. Therefore, I will not do anything for a total replacement apart from dual mobility.
I think this is the last one which I've selected. They had a bad acetabulum, and here also we did a dual mobility. Patient has done well. I think if we move on. So this is these are the studies which I collected, and if you see fairly large numbers and 0 to 1 dislocation, and this is something which is very difficult to ignore. So, and it's actually very reassuring. And this is in the revision situation where one very large series with extremely good results. So it's both reassuring and I think so we were talking about indications. So there you are, extremes of age, multiple surgeries, neuromuscular disease, cognitive dysfunction, revision situations with poor abductor muscle tone, and fracture neck of femur. I put a question mark. Well, I know this is it's debatable, but yes, in certain selected cases, I suppose you could do it. Now, it's not a panacea. It's not without its problem.
I just like to stop you. I think there is one more indication which you've not mentioned. When you have conditions like Angst-Pond, where there is too much of spinopelvic components involved, and where you do not know where to place your cup and how to get it right, again, a dual mobility becomes an indication for those patients.
Yeah, so Veera's paper has been updated, and that is another condition which has been added actually as a cause of recurrent dislocations. And yes, it is a situation where you could consider a dual mobility because with a spinopelvic abnormality in the sagittal or coronal planes, yes, it does contribute to hip instability. So this is something called an intraprosthetic dislocation. This can actually happen in a dual mobility. And this is not my case. I just picked it out from the net. And there you can see how the poly wears and the head dislocates. So in summary, the dual mobility concept combines the benefits of a small head to reduce wear and a large head to increase jump distance and decrease dislocation. Movement happens at two surfaces, and this dramatically decreases impingement, which is a major cause of recurrent dislocations. Results have shown a dramatic reduction so far, and it is a useful. This is actually the key statement. It's not something that you need to do every time. It is not something that you cannot live without, but it is a useful addition to the armamentarium, and it addresses issues of instability, and it is indicated where you think that there is an increased risk of dislocation. So rather than wait for the dislocation to happen and then do a revision, you could prevent revision and preclude it from happening and use this particular armamentarium of this particular concept. I thank you all for a very patient hearing, and thank you to all the participants and the panelists for their views.
Thank you, Vidita. Very nice presentation. Now, maybe one last question from me. You have used one dual mobility in a 59-year-old fracture neck of femur. Yes. What is the sort of long-term survival data available for this particular type of problem?
Yeah, so it's interesting. In fact, I have a publication on this where I've done about 25 cases of dual mobility in fracture neck femurs. So my selection criteria were relatively frail patients of younger age, around 60, where you would want to do a total hip. You don't want to do a heavy in these cases. And so far, out of 25, no one has dislocated in an average follow-up of about 3 years. Now, the international data is that if you do not use a dual mobility in a fracture in a primary THR in fracture neck femur, the recurrent dislocation rate, the dislocation rate is about 4%, and in my series it is 0%. So there is a case of using fracture neck femur in fresh fracture neck femur in slender patients or even in obese patients where you think there may be stresses at the fracture site where you want to do a THR. There is a definite role, I would say.
If you take dislocation out, then what is the long-term survival data for legs for aseptic loosening?
It's very good. The long-term data is extremely good. That's the first picture which I showed. You see, that is Charlie's concept, that there is a small head that reduces the distance the head travels, and therefore it decreases wear automatically. And this has been combined with McKee-Farrar's concept of a large head with a large jump distance to reduce dislocation. And the additional benefit is that because there are two planes, the movement is happening. And where I actually wholly agree with Sanjay Da, that the physics is actually very difficult to refute. It's a very strong principle based on this. There are papers now coming which are showing failures of dual mobility cup. So I think the enthusiasm is probably maybe waning a little bit, but then that's what happens with all new technologies, that people take it, lap it up, they overuse it, and then it sort of wanes, and then you reach a level which is, I suppose, the optimum where you use where you sort of restrict its use and then get the best results. So that's what.
Can I just come in with just one little comment? Comment.
Yeah.
Tribologically, when you add more surfaces, they become more wear prone. That's one basis of tribology. So this is one point which has not been sort of pushed in these dual mobility cups. We've been talking about two surfaces, but as you keep on adding surfaces, as you keep on adding constraints, increase the aspertites, you increase the deformation of your poly in two different planes. So you have more contact, your lubrication starts becoming less of fluid film, more of boundary lubrication. So that is one worry that I have, that long term is great for these weak ones, weak abductors. Yeah, fantastic. But in a tribological sense, actually it's the reverse, I would say. That
Rajiv, your worries are not worries. It is actually proven in data. That's what I was saying. The long-term results, you are sacrificing the actual long-term results in favor of improving this dislocation in the immediate post-op term.
So that's the reason why I'm saying
use it very rationally.
Exactly. So
I think you plus you need to understand that all dual mobilities are not the same. Like if you look at the abilities one, you have a hard shell which goes in, and then you have a metal head and a poly on top of it. So only you have these two. Whereas if you look at the one BD which has shown the cycle ones, you have a soft shell, then you have a hard cobalt chrome liner. Because your poly doesn't go very well with a soft shell, but soft shell bonds very well with the body. So you can't have a hard cup. Do you understand? That is why they have soft shell along with a cobalt chrome liner.
So tribology.
We have actually three surfaces there. You have three surfaces there.
It's a huge doubt. Three surfaces does not improve physics.
Actually, so again, there's an interesting paper, which compares the results of the tripolar socket, not the bipolar, the tripolar socket, which Depuy has a product with the dual mobility. And I think the dual mobility scores a little bit better because mainly I think because of fixation prop thing issues.
There's one extra fixation.
Is fixed very well.
You see, the problem is long term. If you compare against a simple hip, I'm just saying. Other than weak abductors,
the tribology issues have been addressed to some extent. You see, trunnianosis doesn't happen so much.
No, I'm not talking about trunnianosis. I'm talking about aspertites happening where the poly is deformed, different areas getting in contact. So your fluid lubrication is not happening. So you're going into boundary lubrication as compared to fluid lubrication. I'm
coming to that. So the trunnianosis doesn't happen simply because you're using a small head. So the smaller the head, the lesser is the incidence of trunnianosis. So that has been looked after there. If you again, according to Charlie's principles, the distance traveled by the small head is less. And the other thing that has contributed to reduced wear is the new poly, the X3 or so, which has come in, and that has increased the life of the polyethylene quite substantially. So these are the ways they have addressed the tribology. But yes, in long term, I think we are still waiting for 20 plus years results in dual mobility cups. And
Absolutely.
as a concluding remark, I think yeah, I mean, I think we need to exercise caution. I don't think we should use it left, right, and center. I do think we should exercise caution, but I think it's a useful armamentarium.
Absolutely.
Right. So I think we'll wrap up. Thank you, VD, and all the panelists. Over to Rajiv for your concluding remarks.
Thank you, everyone. I think we had a good evening out, and please get ready with your cases for 24th. We'll put it up on our common platform, and please send me a list of your cases so that, because we can't, I want everybody bringing the cases, but all cases will not be discussed because of constraints of time. Because till today, the rule is by 8 o'clock, we have to vacate the premises. So if you start at 3, we have to stop by 6. So you have to have a 3-hour session. So maybe 15 cases. So please start sending me just a heading of your cases, please, to everybody, so I can make a list of them and get ready for 24th. Thank you, everyone. And again, I must thank
Rajiv,
WBA.
I think you give preference to younger people who are presenting.
Of course, I'll definitely do that.
Yeah, even if you get more cases, then give it to them.
So first is juniors first, and I'm just going to keep the seniors out at the end. They're going to be commenters.
So we can have some standby cases just in case you have time. Nothing to discuss, then we can put in.
Absolutely. Just let's building on the case there. And so everybody, thank you, everyone. Thank you, WBA, for helping out with the platform, and thank you, Striker India, for sponsoring this event.
Thank you.
Good night, and enjoy your match. Enjoy your England versus.
Rajiv.
Who's going to win? Yes, Bolo.
Rajiv.
Bolo. Kota khele.
Not done yet. Ki khawachis, Mal?
It's been recorded.
Okay, so good night, everyone. So please stay safe and enjoy the match tonight. It's going to be a good one.
Okay. Good night, sir. Good night.
Good night.
Rajiv, Italy-England final.
Good night.
This was Italy-England final. Definitely.
Italy-England final.
But today's going to be a good match.
Yeah,
it's going to be a good match today. It's going to because it is going to be good fight.
Spain just lost it. They didn't have a striker. That's all. Spain played really well.
No, Spain प्रथम half ठीक করলো तो টিকি টাকা করে তো বেকার বোর করলো I mean
ওদের forward নেই রে বাবা এইবার they don't have a forward.
There's no striker
striker নেই.
Denmark